so I am back with another YouTube video. This is going to be my first video at home after having my baby. I am so excited to be sitting down and filming this. I just got the baby fed. He's now with his daddy, about to take a nap. So I am going to take this time to sit down and just talk about my labor and delivery experience. I'm kind of just going to sit and talk. There's not going to be much editing going into this. Like I said, I have a 14-year-old baby here at home, so I don't have the time that I used to have to put into editing videos right now. So if this video is a little bit choppy, I'm sorry. Like I said, it's really just going to be me sitting, talking, and getting everything out just like I'm chatting with my friends. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and get into it. And like I said, I'm just going to be sharing my story, how I feel things went, what I wish would have been different, what I hope is different for my next baby, God willing that I have a next baby, and then answering some of my frequently asked questions. And yeah, so let's get into it. So I guess we will start from the beginning. So May 25th of 2021, I noticed that my feet were really swollen, and I felt something was a little bit off, and I had high blood pressure on and off through my pregnancy, so I figured that it was my blood pressure. My feet were super swollen. I had asked my husband that night if we should go to the hospital. He said, wait, this wasn't May 25th. Okay, sorry, I had to fact check myself and I was wrong. So it was May 24th that I noticed the swelling, and I asked my husband that night if I should go to the hospital. He said no. I had an appointment set for May 26th already, and he said just wait it out until May 26th. You're feeling fine otherwise. So just wait until you go to that appointment. And I said okay. So the 25th comes around in the morning and my feet are still swollen and I feel like something is up, something is wrong. And so I went to Walmart, their Walmart pharmacy, to check my blood pressure, and lo and behold, it was high, and I mean really, really high. I don't remember the exact number, but it was just like, it was really bad. So I called my doctor's office and I asked the triage nurse what she thinks I should do. I gave her my numbers and she said she was going to get in contact with my OB and ask what I should do. So she gets in contact with my OB, calls me back and says, hey, your doctor says to go ahead and head to the hospital for some monitoring. So that's exactly what I did. My husband was at work. I told him, don't bother leaving. You know, I feel like if they get my blood pressure under control, they're going to send me back home. It's not going to be any big deal. If for some reason, you know, they say, hey, you're staying, or hey, it's, you know, time to have a baby, I will text you. You can go home, pick up our hospital bags, and then meet me at the hospital. So like I said, this is all on May 25th now. So I head to the hospital. At this time, I start having contractions, and it was really weird, out of nowhere. I guess not out of nowhere, because at this time I was 38 weeks, well, 37 weeks and 6 days, 5 days, 37 weeks and 5 days, sorry. So I get to the hospital, they get me checked in, they take me to triage. They get me hooked up to the cuff, they get an IV placed, and they have me wait. They have me on the monitors. They have the monitors on my belly to measure baby's heart rate as well as my contractions. So when I was there, I told them, you know, this is my first baby. I think I'm having contractions. I don't know if that's what this is. So when they hooked me up to the monitor, they said, oh yeah, you are having contractions, and they're about 3 minutes apart. So they're really close. It might be time to have a baby soon. And I was like, oh wow, you know, okay. So they had the doctor that was on call come in, check me for dilation, and I was only 1 centimeter dilated still. I had been 1 centimeter for about 2 weeks now. So they said, we're gonna keep you here for 2 hours. If your blood pressure goes down and you don't dilate anymore, we're gonna send you home, and you're just gonna have to come back next time you start feeling contractions. I said, okay. They kept me there for the 2 hours. They drew some blood to check for preeclampsia. Everything came back negative. My blood pressure went down, came back 2 hours later, still 1 centimeter dilated. So I got sent home. But like I said, this is May 25th, and I had a doctor's appointment set for May 26th. So they told me, keep your doctor's appointment, go tomorrow. You know, you never know, you might be more dilated then. She might send you back to the hospital, all that good stuff. So I did. I kept my appointment. I went home. We went to bed, my husband and I. The next morning, usually I drive myself to my appointments, but the next morning I asked my husband if he would drive me, just because I hate finding parking at the hospital, and I just wanted him to like drop me off, you know, drive around and then come pick me up. So he did. He dropped me off. I got checked in. I went, when the nurses called me back, and the nurses were taking my height, my weight, and my blood pressure was high again. And I had told them, I said, I went to the hospital yesterday because I had extremely high blood pressure, and they sent me home. And she said, okay, I'll let your doctor know, and just to let you know, your blood pressure is high again, and there's a high probability that your doctor is going to send you to the hospital to be induced. And I was like, oh wow, okay. So I was really over being pregnant. It was so hard at the end, you know, that from 35 weeks on even, it was just getting so dreadful. But at 38 weeks, I really wasn't too keen on being induced. Not because I felt like baby wasn't ready, because they did tell me that he was measuring ahead and that, you know, he would be okay. But just, it being my first baby, I wanted to have that, oh my gosh, it's time to go, you know, tell my husband, get excited. Not that we weren't going to be excited if it was planned and scheduled, but it's just a different type of excitement. So when she said that, I was having mixed emotions, but I still didn't know what my doctor was going to say. So I get called back again. The doctor comes in and sees me. She checks for dilation, still 1 centimeter. And then she tells me, hey, so I see that you've been having some blood pressure issues. And at this point, you're going to be 38 weeks tomorrow. I feel like baby is better out than he is in. So I'm going to go ahead and send you to the hospital today to be induced tomorrow. Since I was only 1 centimeter, the reason that I was going to be induced the next day was because that they were going to put something in me to help me dilate, and it has to be in for 12 hours. And then after those 12 hours, you know, I should be dilated, and then they would break my water, and boom, it's baby time. So at that point, I got dressed. I texted my husband, like, hey, we're gonna have to go get our bags and then head to the hospital. It's baby time. My husband was obviously super excited, as was I. Couldn't wait to meet our little boy. So I leave the doctor's office. At this point, it's about noon. And I asked, do I have to go straight to the hospital? We don't have our stuff. And she goes, no, you don't. You're not in any type of rush. Just go today, you know, go get a meal, get your stuff, get things ready, head to the hospital when you're, you know, when you feel ready. I said, okay. So we left the doctor's office. We went straight to Chick-fil-A because that was going to be my meal before I went into the hospital. So we go to Chick-fil-A, we pick that up, we take it home, eat. We already had all of our bags packed when we got home. But me being me, I did some laundry and some cleaning just because I wanted everything to be perfect when we came back home. So we finished cleaning, grabbed our bags. I said goodbye to my best friend who is currently living with us right now. Cried a little bit and then headed to the hospital. So by the time we get to the hospital, it's about 2:33-ish. And like I said, this is on May 26th, 2021. I let them know that I was there to be induced, and they got me checked in, got me into my room. At about 4:30, a nurse came in and placed the thing that was going inside of me. It's called Cervidil, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly. And it's like a little tampon type thing. She puts it in there. There's a string sticking out. Her putting it in hurt so bad. That might be one of the worst parts of my labor, actually. But the first nurse I had, it was her first day in the labor and delivery unit, and I hate to say it, but she really didn't know what she was doing. And so I'm thinking that she just placed it wrong, or, you know, she was doing something wrong, because it was so painful. I was, you know, like yelling and screaming in there. And like I said, it just was not a good experience. So like I said, this is about 4 p.m. on May 26th, and she tells me this has to be in for about 12 hours. So at 4 a.m., we're going to come take it out. After we take it out, we're going to give you about an hour rest, and then we're going to start you on the Pitocin, and then we're going to break your water, and then it's going to be baby time. If you don't know what Pitocin is, it's a drug that helps contractions start to get the ball rolling when it comes to having a baby. So 4 p.m. she puts it in. Everything is good. It gets to about 9, maybe 10 p.m. I start having contractions on my own again. So I had started having contractions right after she put the Cervidil in, pretty much at 4 p.m. They stopped for like an hour, now that I think about it, and then they came back. So like maybe they came back at around 6 p.m. And I had been having contractions from 6 p.m. all the way until I delivered my son the next day at 1:47 p.m. So quite a while. Anyways, at around 8, 9, 10 p.m., somewhere in the night, I get up, I use the restroom, I lay back down, and something is wrong. I feel like my cooter is on fire, and I told my husband, can you please call the nurse? I think the Cervidil is coming out. I think, you know, something's wrong. By this time, it was already shift change, so I had a new nurse. She comes in and she looks, and she said, oh yeah, that was not in correctly. We're gonna have to put it in again. And at that point, I was terrified, because like I said, putting it in the first time was hell. Like, it hurt so freaking bad. So I was really scared. My husband comes, he's by my side, he's holding my hand, and she goes in there, didn't feel a thing. She put it in so smoothly. So like I said, that first nurse just did not know what she was doing. So she puts it in. By the time 4 in the morning rolls around, when it's time to come take him out, I had been having really bad contractions all night. I was in pain. So one thing about me, I had said that I wanted to go medication free, no epidural, no peg medication at all, but that was before I knew I was getting induced. The doctor told me when it comes to induction, everything comes faster, stronger, harder, and she did recommend an epidural. I was still on the fence. I was going to wait until I needed it. So 4 a.m. comes, I'm still having really bad contractions. I still don't ask for the epidural. Doctor comes in, checks me for dilation. Lo and behold, I am still like 1.5 centimeters dilated. At that point, I was so frustrated, because that thing was inside of me for 12 hours, making my contractions so intense, and I still wasn't dilated. I started getting nervous, because I wanted my son there now. Like, I wanted to have him in my arms. I had been going through hell for the past 48 hours, being poked and prodded in so many different ways and checked and all this different stuff, and obviously I've been waiting for 38 weeks at this point. I just want to meet my baby. So doctor gives me about an hour. He starts me on Pitocin. As soon as he starts me on Pitocin, he comes in and he breaks my water. So when he was checking me for dilation, he goes, while I'm in here, I'm gonna break your water. I said, okay. I guess it's like a little hook that they have. So he went in there, breaks my water. Guys, I wish I could explain to you that feeling if you haven't been through labor. It was just gushing out everywhere, and I was laying on the bed, and it felt so warm, and it felt like I had peed myself like a million times, and there was so much of it. And so they're like changing me because it got all over my gown. Well, I say changing me, I was helping. Like I said, I didn't have an epidural or anything, so I can move around freely. It's all over the bed. I get up, they change the sheets. Every movement I make, more and more is coming out. And I kept telling the doctor, there's more, there's more, there's more. And he's like, it's gonna keep dripping for a while. Like, you have a lot of liquid in there. And I was like, okay. And it just was such an uncomfortable feeling, honestly. But I did get excited. At that point, I was really, really excited because it's baby time. So I'm on the Pitocin. Contractions are getting stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger. Still no, I didn't have an epidural for quite a while. Actually, I didn't have an epidural until about an hour before my son was born. Like I said, I delivered at 1:47 p.m. So it's just contractions for quite a while. And then they come in and they say, do you want the epidural? Let me check you. Still at about 1.5. At that point, since I was still at about 1.5, I was getting so frustrated and I didn't know how long it was going to take me to dilate. I told them, go ahead and get the anesthesiologist. They usually take a while to come in. In that time, it took him about maybe 30 minutes to come in. In that time, I dilated from a 1 to about an 8.5. And they still gave me the epidural. So when I tell you, like, those contractions were strong, they were really strong. Like, in 30 minutes, I went from like a 1 to an 8.5, and they said, like, that was fast. So when it comes to placing the epidural, a lot of people had questions about my epidural experience. It sucked. If there's one thing I could change and go back, I would not have gotten the epidural because I was so close to delivering and I didn't know it. Next time I won't be getting it, hopefully, fingers crossed. I guess you can't really, say that far into the future. But the epidural was not painful. I will say that it was not painful, but in the moment, I really felt like it was. I think I just had like a panic attack. I was really scared of getting the epidural to begin with, which is why I didn't really want it. So he's placing it. I'm hugging the tech, whatever, and I'm like scream crying. And my husband, he is also crying. He really does not like to see me in pain, and my husband never ever cries, but when it comes to seeing me hurting like that and there's nothing that he could do about it, he just felt really, helpless in the moment, and he was not feeling good. Obviously neither was I. So I'm like crying and crying, and the anesthesiologist was kind of rude. I guess I was being a little bit dramatic thinking back into it, but at the time, I'm a first-time mom. I'm 19 years old and I am in pain, and he was kind of telling me, are you sure it hurts? It shouldn't hurt this bad. Are you sure you're not just freaking yourself out? And maybe he was trying to calm me down, but his tone was just not it. And then he was also talking to the other nurses in there, like I wasn't in there. He was saying like, oh, she's freaking out. Oh, she's crying for no reason. She literally saying stuff like that. And so I was a little bit that made me a little bit more upset, and I feel like it made me cry more. But I was sitting still. He did say that through all my freak out, I did sit very well, and I sat very still for it. So they placed the epidural. I lie down. He goes, this will go into effect in about 2 contractions. So it usually takes your next contraction is going to be a little bit less strong. The one after that is going to be even less strong, and then after that you shouldn't feel it. I said, okay. Still felt the next contraction very strong, and the one after that very strong, and every single one after that very strong. And I kept telling them, I feel everything. My left side, my leg, it felt heavy. It felt like it should feel with an epidural. I couldn't move it very well on my own. I could still move it. I could still lift it, but it was a little bit harder. My right leg, I felt like I could play a whole soccer game with. I was moving up and down. My whole right side, I felt everything. And I kept telling them that. And they said, oh, it's just your position. We'll move you this way, and then it'll go to the right side of your body. Nope. We'll move you this way, and then it'll go to the right side of your body. Nope. We'll up your dosage, and then it'll go to the right side of your body. Nope. And I felt every single thing. And I kept telling them, and they kept saying, one of the nurses said, oh, an epidural is supposed to take away 97% of the pain. So the pain that you're feeling now is only 3% of the pain you would be feeling without it. And let me tell you guys, that was no 3%. That was no 3%. And my mom has had 5 kids. I've heard countless epidural stories, and I should not have been in the amount of pain that I was in. So something was wrong there also. By this time, it was shift change again, and I had the nurse who had no idea what she was doing. So they come in and they asked me if I want to do cord blood donation. I said, of course I do. They said that they needed to draw my labs. I said, that's fine, draw my blood. They had me sign all these papers while I was having my contractions. So the nurse, she pokes my vein, misses, pokes it again, misses, pokes it again, says that it bursts, and all that before she said, let me go get someone who is a little bit better at this than me. I was at this point getting very frustrated because every time that I had a question or anything that I needed, or if something was wrong and I would tell her, she also had a nurse with her that was training her. And if she didn't know the answer, she would look at the nurse that was training her, and the nurse that was training her would go, oh, I'm sorry, but I can't tell you. I'm going to have to let you figure this one out on your own. And while I am all for learning and, improving healthcare, when I am 9 centimeters dilated and screaming in pain, that is not the time for you to hold off on giving this confused nurse answers on something that could make me feel better. So I was really frustrated, as was my husband. It was just not good. So now getting to the part where it's almost time to push, they sit me up pretty much all the way, and they tell me, you're almost there. It's going to be a few more minutes, and then it's going to be time to push. In that time, before it's time to push, the amount of pressure, you guys, when I tell you that the contractions, yes, they were hell, they were bad, but the worst part was the overwhelming feeling that my butthole was about to rip in half. Literally, that is what it felt like. Like, I felt like I had to poop so freaking bad. The amount of pressure, it felt like someone was inside of me. Okay, well, I was about to say, it felt like someone was inside of me and trying to push their way out, and now that I think about it, that's pretty much exactly what was happening. But that, to me, was the worst part. Just all of the pressure, so much pressure. So anyways, a few more minutes of that go by. In that time, my mom FaceTimes me. And I loved talking to my mom. It actually calmed me down a lot. And so she was, just talking to me. If you don't know, my mom has 5 kids. I'm the oldest. And her last child that she just had is 3 months older than my son. So my mom and I were pregnant at the same time. And with this last one, she pushed for 31 seconds before the baby came out. And so she's a real freaking trooper. She's a warrior. She's a pro when it comes to pushing babies out. So she was just kind of talking me through it, giving me some tips. Nurse comes in, says it's go time. I hang up, and my husband takes out his phone to record everything. They lay me back down, and they tell me the doctor's not going to come in until baby's coming right out. So they tell me, it's time to start pushing. They want 3 pushes per contraction at 10 seconds each. They have my husband counting. In this time, I don't think the pushing was bad. It was exhausting. It wasn't painful. It was super freaking exhausting. The contractions were painful. The pressure was painful, but the pushing was not. It was just so tiring. They tell you before you start pushing that this is going to be exhausting. It's going to take every ounce of energy you have, and they are so right. They're so right. It is so tiring. My entire face got red, got purple. I have a couple clips of that if you want to watch my previous video. And I don't remember much of that time. I remember my husband holding my hand and recording, and I remember him telling me how much he loves me and how strong I am and that I am capable. And he was counting. The nurses were being nurses. And I love nurses. My mom is a nurse, but these nurses were something else. Anyways, I kept saying, I remember I said over and over again, I don't feel like he's moving. I don't feel like he's moving. I couldn't feel like I was making any progress. And they kept telling me like, no, he's coming. Feel. And I was like, what do you mean feel? And she said, stick your hand down and feel. And I felt the top of his little head, and that was it. That gave me the energy that I needed, and I pushed and I pushed and I pushed. And again, a couple minutes later, I said, I don't feel like he's moving again. And they told me feel again. And it's just like that, it changes everything. Like, I wanted to hold my baby so freaking badly, that's what I needed. So I pushed 2 more times, and they said to call the doctor in. Doctor comes in and goes, 2 more pushes, you know, your baby's gonna be here. Ring of fire hits. That is real. People asked if I felt that, because I still had the epidural. That's one of my most commonly asked questions. Like I said, the epidural just did not do shit for me. So yes, I felt that. And yeah. I also did have an episiotomy. I didn't know it. They didn't tell me. They didn't ask me. So that might contribute to the fact that my ring of fire was so strong, because I was being cut open and I just didn't know it. But I push, and then I feel a head come out. Some pressure is relieved. I push again. I feel shoulders come out, and that's it. That is it. I didn't feel any pain after that. I just felt so relieved to have him out. My son, he didn't cry, but he was making sounds, so they weren't worried. I must have said, is he okay? That was my first words when he came out, about 50 times. Is he okay? Is he okay? Is he okay? They said, they kept saying yes. They had him on my chest. I told him how much I loved him. I said that he had a cone head, because he did. He had a cone head when he was born. I looked at my husband and I told him that I loved him and to come look at our baby. And then placenta came out. They asked, a lot of people ask if it hurt to deliver my placenta. Not at all. Didn't feel a thing. Once I was holding my son, nothing else mattered. Stitches, did I feel stitches? I did feel the stitches, but like I said, I was holding my son, nothing else mattered. Oh, I forgot to mention, so before I went into labor, I told my husband that the most important thing, his most important job while we are at the hospital, is to make 1000% sure that he records the moment that my son comes out and they place him on my chest. So when it was time for the baby to come out, the nurses told my husband to stop recording, and to only take still pictures. I looked at my husband with the death eyes, and he said, okay, I'll take pictures. And when he looked at me, I knew immediately that he was not going to stop recording. So that was fine. I did get that moment on camera, but it really pissed me off that the nurses, asked him to stop recording that moment, and especially because he wasn't recording anything that they were doing. He was just going to record when they put him on my chest. But luckily he didn't stop recording, and I have all of that on video. Anyways, so then I have my son in my arms. All is well and dandy. All is right with the world. Best moment of my entire life. Another commonly asked question that I get is if it hurts when they come and do, I believe it's called fundal rubs, where they come and like press on your belly and rub everything after you deliver. Didn't hurt me at all. I actually thought it felt really good. So yeah, I'm gonna look. Hold on, there's a few more questions that I want to answer. Okay, so one question that I do want to answer is someone asked, what did I actually use from what I packed in my hospital bag? If you want to see what I packed in my hospital bag, I also have a video of that here on my channel. I used everything, literally everything except for the underwear that I packed. I was in the mesh underwear the whole time. So if you want some helpful things to pack in your hospital bag, like I said, go check that video out. Someone also asked if I could go back and change anything about my labor and delivery experience, what would it be? I wouldn't change anything. It brought me and my son into this world. You live and you learn. I couldn't control what the nurses did. I couldn't control how my body reacted to the epidural. I couldn't control any of that. So nothing. Like, I'm just hoping, you know, the next one I can go into labor naturally. And that things, you know, go differently next time, but this time I wouldn't change a thing. So my son was born at 1:47 p.m. May 27th, 2021. He weighed 7 pounds 15 ounces. He was 1 ounce away from being 8 pounds. He's a big baby considering he was born 2 full weeks early. And he was beautiful, so beautiful. He's so gorgeous. He's the light of my life. I love him more than I love anything else on this entire planet. And I am so grateful and so happy to be a mom. It is the best experience of my life. Any moms or soon-to-be moms that are watching this, you know, nervous about labor and delivery or looking for tips, your body will know just what to do when it is time. Do not stress about that. And just know that every minute, every second, every ounce of pain is so worth it when you get to finally hold that baby that you are growing. I wish you all the best of luck, and thank you guys so much for watching. Also, you guys, I was just rewatching the beginning of my video and I realized I said I had a 14-year-old baby at home. I don't. I have a 14-day-old baby at home.